Speaker is Dr. Massimiliano Galeazzi. He's a chair of physics, Cooper Fellow, University of Miami. And the title of his presentation is Wide Field X-ray Telescope for Space.
All right, you can see my screen and hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Buongiorno o buonasera a tutti. Okay, my name is Massimiliano Galeazzi. I'm the chair of the Department of Physics at the University of Miami. I'm also one of the vice presidents of the Miami Scientific Italian community. So, hold on. All right, so what I'm going to talk about today is we switch to the topic of astrophysics. So, you're familiar with astronomy. You can observe the sky with telescopes. But usually when people think about telescopes, think about visible. So what I show here is the whole electromagnetic spectrum. So those are basically light at different wavelengths that we call, is called with different names, radio waves, microwaves. And you can see here the visible is really what the traditional astronomy is. Nowadays, we can do also astronomy in all other bands. We go to ultraviolet, and my field specifically is in the X-ray band, which is very short wavelengths here. Now, what I show here is briefly how much that wavelength or light with that wavelength comes to Earth. You can see here in this window down here that a visible light can come all the way down to the surface of the Earth. That's why we have life on Earth. All right. Other wavelengths like UV get stopped by our atmosphere. The famous ozone that we have in our atmosphere that stops our UV and prevents us from burning when we go to the beach. My field is in this band here, which is what we call soft X-rays. Same X-rays that you use when you break a bone to see what's inside your body. There are very important objects in space like black holes, supernova explosion, etc., that needs to be studied in this band. The problem is, or for us as astronomers, is that light at that wavelength doesn't come to the surface of the Earth, so we need to send our telescopes in space, either using rockets or satellites. That's why, this is a much newer field of astrophysics. It was started, the official date is 18 June 1962, when Riccardo Giacconi sent an X-ray detector, an X-ray telescope aboard a NASA Sun rocket and discovered the first extrasolar X-ray source. And for that, he actually won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2002. And you can see here Riccardo building the first X-ray satellite, SHRO, in the 1970s. In my case, sort of following the footsteps, I am the PI of a NASA mission called the DXL, was in diffuse X-ray from the local galaxy, with many collaborators at NASA, Johns Hopkins, University of Wisconsin. And basically what we do is we want to study X-ray that come from both the solar system and from our galaxy close to the sun. All right. So what we do is, I said it's a Sunday rocket. So what happens is, you can see up here, the rocket gets launched and has two motors to get into space. When it's in space, the payload, which is the part that contains the telescope, detaches from the motor. You have about 5 minutes where you can point your telescopes to the object you're studying, and then your payload falls back to the ground and it's recovered with a parachute. We launched 4 times. We started in 2012, and the last launch was a little more than a year ago. You can see here, some of my collaborators standing underneath the rocket. It's 60 feet, so about 20 meters long rocket. White is the first stage to get it off the ground. Black is the second stage that brings it outside the Earth atmosphere, and the silver on top of here is the actual payload where we have instrumentation, telemetry, etc., etc. All right, so here is a quick video of one of the launches. That's a slow motion video. That was the last launch that we did from Virginia last year. You can see, basically the rocket igniting and taking off. And because it was in January, we actually covered it with styrofoam to keep it warm. You can see the wings of the rocket actually breaking through the styrofoam and taking off. All righty, I'm not going to spend too much time on this video. Just this is for your visualization. Let me move on. So we say the first launch was in 2012. What did we find? Well, we found that the we confirmed that the sun is in a portion of the galaxy that we call the lockout bubble. It's basically a big bubble of million-degree plasma that extends about 300 light years in all directions. And you can see here the CNN, we publish on Nature, but here is also a CNN feature on our results that basically shows that we are living in a bubble. We had 3 subsequent flights. Here is the last one that we did in January 2022. The other ones were from New Mexico. We had one from Alaska, this one from Virginia. Again, that's some of the members of the team for the last launch. All right, these are the data. I'm not going to go through them, but basically, we're still finishing the analysis, showing that we see signal in X-ray and that it worked as expected. Now, because it was from Virginia, this time, instead of having a Earth landing, we had a sea landing. You can actually see the payload here in the ocean. Unfortunately, because of rough weather, the boat that was supposed to recover it didn't make it. So now we switched our topic to marine biology, as in we lost the rocket. And I'm still hoping that one of these days I'll get a phone call from Norway that it landed in one of their beaches. Who knows? But we got the data because we get in real time for telemetry and we are analyzing them. And these are the preliminary data that I'm not going to go through. But before moving on, also, we were actually 4 hours away from Washington, D.C. So again, this is another CNN feature on our rocket. We put on a show for all the residents in Washington, D.C. And this is CNN reporting on our last launch. All right. Now, as part of these rockets, we also tested new optics for X-ray telescopes, hence the title of my talk. They're called lobster eye optics. And basically, for those of you in biology, turns out that lobster and all crustacean, instead of having mirrors like our retina to focus images, they have this sort of frame with square holes that are used to focus images. Turns out this design of square holes is perfect for X-ray imaging. So what we did is, we developed new X-ray optics that sort of mimic. You can see the microscopic view of one of our optics. It's built by a company in France called Photonis. And this is actually the microscope view of a real lobster eye. And they are on a circular sphere and they can focus X-rays. And they're great for transient gravitational wave event detection, etc. They're very lightweight, very portable for a lot of future missions. And some of the spin-off that came from flying these optics. So we actually have a couple, we have a couple of proposals for large satellite missions that are coming up called, one, it's actually Amulet, the other one is Cybex, the last 2 here. Those are very large scale missions that hopefully will be approved by NASA and launched soon. Cupid actually is a small satellite that was launched last year. And Lexi, I'm going to talk about it, is actually a lunar lander that will launch in 2024. So this is just a view of Cybex. So we built these small telescopes. This is about 50 centimeters long, so they're very small, portable. They're ideal for telescopes and payloads that need to move very fast to track objects and transients. Lexis is part of the Artemis program. You may know what Artemis is. Artemis was the sister of Apollo. So it's sort of a follow-up of the Apollo program. Apollo brought the first man on the surface of the moon. Artemis' goal is to bring the first woman and the next man to the surface of the moon. As part of the program, they want to test landers. And they choose the payloads to put on those landers. And one of the payloads that was chosen is this one here that is called now Lexis, which is one of the telescopes that we flew in our rocket in 2012. It has been adapted and should be flying to the moon in 2024. And just for your reference, so this is the plate on all the team members that contributed to these telescopes. And you can see my name is there. So this will be permanently on the surface of the moon, at least until somebody decided that's junk and needs to be thrown away. So if we get alien landing on the moon, they'll have the name of everyone that worked on the mission. And that's the end of my talk. I tried to be as fast as possible. I should have been in the 10 minutes range.